Now comes the elements. These elements which we have seen in the Gardens of Versailles example that we will be highlighting. The fountains. Fountain has become a very strong element in the French landscape styles, very strong element. It was there in a low key, but here it earned a grand popularity and identity. Then portraits and paths. So, if you look at the elements in this way, the French landscape has fountains, it has portraits, then we have the walks, we have the sculptures, the groves, a series of plantations. What is groves? It is a series of plants if they are put together almost in sequence. Nowadays, we are using for various kind of social forestry or any other situations when we are trying to create a say a hedgerow with the big trees, we are trying to create with the groves. These groves can be with some kind of revenue generating plants like mangoes or some other fruits, or it may be with flower plants or something like say casuarina grove, mango grove. So, these are the kinds which you have learned from the French. Okay. The orangery, this particular element you must have seen that I have mentioned this during Italian landscape style description. This is one of the very strong element which Italians have used, French have used, and also there is a flow that even the English people also have used. What is the orangeries are? Basically, most of the time they used a large areas to be covered with some citrus plants. These citrus plants which they would protect during winter in some of the covered areas and then again bring out and put it in the landscapes, and this all these plants are generally on the potted situations, earthen pots or wooden pots. This I have mentioned during the Italian landscape discussion. Here interesting thing is, if you see that potted plants, use of potted plants in the landscape, that came in during this period of time. So, the French landscape has showed us that it is not necessary that the tree or the plants has to be rooted to the ground, to the bare original soil. It can be of the potted things and then you arrange it the way you want. So, orangery is another. Now, let me highlight a little more on fountains. I would suggest, see, I will be narrating this, but also keeping it for a while, so that you can also see it yourself. The entire Versailles had about 11 main fountains, and those fountains placed at different places in certain sequences that gained its identity. These fountains were essentially with the cascading over statues or water sprays. The statues were the good handiwork of the sculptors, which were kept at certain points and which were depicting some Greek or Roman mythology. Such fountains, now they also had mirror pools. Mirror pools, the picture as it is cited here is a true reflection of exactly what it is. The mirror pool had absolutely still water. It is absolutely still water which will create an image or reflection, the inverted reflection of the sky or the background vegetations onto this, as if it is a mirror kept on the ground. Large one, but well designed and well aligned, so that the designers decided that what kind of reflection they should, from which part of the reflection they should see. This is one of the very strong element of landscapes here. Then nymph baths. Basically, it is a bath here with flowing water, water cascading over statues. If you remember, I just now said, basically the statues of nymphs and all. So, these are all for some kind of decorations or reflections of the some historical or religious or such kind of myths and such other. Then comes Apollo's fountain, a very famous one. This is very famous one, where multiple horses are spouting water from their mouths. If you see at the background, say this is a large water stretch which runs through all along centrally, and then at different spots. At this point, it's the Apollo's fountain that has been kept over here for spouting water. Then we have Leto's fountain. This is multi-level fountains, where There are spouts as well as there are small sculptures or statues through which the water is spouting. This particular idea was very strongly followed even by the English people. We have seen fountains in the Italian gardens, but we did not see really the sculptures. Of course, we did have some bit of idea about the sculptures having the fountains over it, but French landscape has demonstrated a very extensive use of it to a grander scale. So if you look at the Apollo's fountain, it was one level. If you look at the latest fountain, it is at the multi-level. Now, next is Neptune fountain here. So this particular structure with a full fountain here, and then water will be spreading from one part to another one. Then comes Dragon fountain, in which if you see this backdrop remained almost same for the earlier one as well, but there are dragon statues and all, and they would also spout waters. And then fountains of the fighting animals. This kind of things we have seen in many of the contemporary landscape styles which got developed over the last about say 200 centuries or so. These are the strong contributions of the French landscape styles. And the Four Seasons fountain. Now, if you see here, we have mentioned that there are 11 such main fountains, of which the Four Seasons fountains are placed over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the back. These 4 season fountains, and the rest 7. It makes 11 fountains. These 11 fountains are the very strong elements of the Versailles example. Then comes the question of pathways and paths. Basically, pathways are different zones. What they have done is, there are different, in the whole landscape, since it is a large area, they divide it into different portions, not necessarily squares. I mention again, not necessarily squares, whatever size they wanted, but they were very, very regular, very rectilinear, within which they have patterned. Okay? Now, they have the north pathway, they have the south pathway, and they have the water pathway and such. That is how they have identified this. Now, let us look at this example of called Leto's pathway. If you look at this, this is one zone which is a pathway. This pathway has nice pavements, very ornamental pathways, very well crafted, well manicured and maintained green lawn. But if you look at this, the entire thing, of course, at the center there is a fountain. If you look at the whole thing, it looks like almost a very intricately woven carpets. This is what they have brought in here. Now, if you look at the Mughal gardens example that I have cited, it also looks like a very nicely intricately woven carpets. The point is, the artists, the sculptors, the landscapists at this period of time, they started bringing in the patterns embedded into the landscape styles. This is what is the thing to be learned. The north and south pathway, this is called north and south pathway, in which, let us look at it, they have the water channel running along this. Then they have the green paths and the green zones here. They have 2 paths over here, and overlooking from this particular structure side, you see a large grand paved zones or plazas. From there, the path leading to one circle here, another circle here, and also from here to this circle. So basically, it's all geometric patterns. The geometric patterns which they have replicated almost symmetrically, that became a very interesting part of this particular landscapes. Then we have the south pathway, which looks a little different from the north pathway, if you recall. Here we have a circle, and then diagonally the paths are leading to this, and intermediate zones here it's a water body, and then intermediate zones are covered with plantations, good flowery plants or grasses. This is what is the south pathway leading to the large grand water body here. Then comes the water pathway. This is another very interesting part. Here you will find there is not much of vegetation here. It's here water is the element that you are walking along this, and you see there are small sculptures on the end on this, and on the either side you have the water body, a grand walkway through this. You are leading to this particular path, but if you don't even move, your eyes are hovering over by two symmetrically placed water and the central water body here. This is the grandness that the French landscape has offered us. The walks. The Garden of Versailles is designed in such a way that you have different walkways geometrically crisscrossing maybe, or it may be a cruciform. You will go from one place to another, but very symmetrically or geometrically placed. This makes it different from the other landscape styles like Chinese and Japanese or even Spanish. Okay, so around two axes it is divided, north, south and east, west. So it is a cruciform that they got. And the first starts with the Neptune fountain and passes along the water walk. This is how the whole walk is planned. And the second, known as the grand perspective, bisects axis of symmetry. That means, now let us conclude at this particular point. The French landscape establishes the symmetry. French landscape establishes the central axis and the cross axis, or rather biaxial thing. It establishes that. Some examples here. Along with this, the King's Garden Grove, a zone which is very clearly interwoven with the grass lawns and having different kind of vegetations at the backdrop, which changes its color by season because of the European climate. You know that phenomena, that in essentially during autumn you have a kind of weather, and then gradually this color of the leaves changes, and the color of the leaves changes. I will discuss about this when I will talk about the botanical items of this. This color change, which brings in different kind of visual ecstasy to the viewer at different seasons. This is what is very I would say a very important point to be noted for European landscape designs, but this is not true in all other areas. It is not true in the tropical climates. So even if we wish, we generally don't get this kind of effects as you do see in this picture, that vegetation is turning gradually reddish, scarletish orange or brownish. Okay. Then the water walk, the fountain leading gradually down to this through the grass, and then the pathways on either side, sculptures wherever required, then leading to the water body and looking towards this. Then the Royal Way or Great Lawn. Essentially, looking at this picture, I hope you have a very clear idea like what kind of grandness that they created with the vegetation, and it is green dominated. See, the composition that we have in this particular picture is of course endowed with the wonderful sky color at different time of the day, but if you this color will change, but essentially if you look at what they have planned for, a green vegetation at the edge, water body here, a pathway leading to this, and the grand lawn here, okay, and then the vegetation on this side, it creates a grandness. This grandness we have found in many places. Even we have found in Paris, the Champs-Élysées, the plantations, they are almost a replica of this. It's a contemporary landscapes, but still the same, a series of trees, quite large trees, almost making very geometrically a perspective scenario. This is what it is. Then the groves. The groves I have explained that it's a series of plantations that has been planted one after another. It may be harmonious, it may be also heterogeneous. Harmonious means it is, or say homogeneous, I would say. Of course, everything will have the harmony, but the homogeneous or heterogeneous. Say same plant planted one after another, or there could be different kind of plants planted one after another, but well planned out, so that it gives a different kind of views. Okay, so the examples that we found in the Versailles is, the Enclatus Grove, the northern groves, and then we have the Apollos Baths Grove, then we have the Obelisk Grove. In this Obelisk Grove here you will find that the vegetative grove is here, but this particular fountain, a very tall one, which is, it resembles obelisk. Obelisk is a kind of structure that we do have. If you see any such kind of structure which is above the ground, standing upward, it's obelisk. So it's obelisk grove. And then we have grove of the domes. Here you see that they have planted the vegetations very, very systematically and categorically. And then we have the water theatre grove. See, these are slightly contemporary examples, because all these landscape styles that we are reviewing, even historically we have seen, and also we are still watching that what is happening to this landscape style. We are finding that all those landscape styles are still persisting, and they are also undergoing a very silent evolutions, where the current art forms, current installation arts are coming into this particular landscape and also adding to the beauty of this. So water theatre groves, and then grove of the three fountains. Here 1, 2, 3 fountains that they have created at the back, and the backdrop is a grove. And then triumphal arch grove. This particular grove that has been created, grove is basically, again, whenever you look at the grove, always you see with respect to a background of the vegetations. Okay. So all these are the examples that we saw. Even we have the star groves. The southern groves, that was northern one. The southern groves is the chestnut groves, then girandole groves. I think I should hold the picture for a little longer. Maybe it is you are missing it. Chestnut grove, where you see pathways and you see the fences beyond which the groves planted, and we also have the trees on the left hand sides which are creating a kind of wall effects, and these are what is grove. And then we have the girandole groves, very well maintained with vegetations, large plants at the back. Then we have colonnade grove. Here it's a wonderful blend of the architecture and the landscape. Behind, see, in the foreground we have a plaza, and then we have the colonnade, and behind we have a series of plantations which is a grove. So this is a colonnade grove. That's what they have given the identity. And then we have the Queen's Grove, then Ballroom Grove. This particular area is essentially for their recreation purposes. Here we do see another thing. The vegetations are planted on terraces, and then there are stone walls and other things at the backdrop, and then we have the fountains over here, and then we have the vegetative grove at the back. So this is what is identified in this particular example as the Ballroom Grove. Okay. Now before I go into the English landscape styles, let me conclude the French landscapes, then I'll come to the English landscape styles. Essentially what we have learned from the French landscape, first of all, one thing is very, very clear. The French landscape was almost a carryover of the Italian landscape. So there was a strong influence of the Italian landscape from the on the French landscape. Then the French landscape also introduced certain elements which were not very distinct or dominant in the Italian landscape styles, and they were essentially furnitures, intricate small furnitures, garden chairs, then balusters, planter pots, and then the bird baths. All these were introduced by the French. And the fountains, of grand fountains, multiple fountains, they became the important elements of the French landscape styles. So if you see, so far in the European landscapes, from Italian we have discussed up to the French. Now I would like to take you through another part of the Europe where landscape style got evolved, called English landscape styles.